In this video, I want to talk about something I call a false sense of discipline. Now, discipline is kind of a buzzword in today's world. Discipline is talked about ad nauseum in today's world. You hear it all over podcasts. You hear it all over self-help books. It's one of the most popular things I feel going around right now and been going around in the past couple of years. Is talks about discipline. But today, I'm not going to talk about how to become more disciplined and how to make your life a more disciplineful life. I'm going to talk about a false sense of discipline. And this is kind of something I thought of because it was kind of something I did myself. Something I've found from my past 6 to 7 years of trying to become as disciplined as possible was the constant fighting of yourself of staying disciplined, right? It's kind of a weird thing you struggle with because it's like, why is your brain fighting yourself so bad on not doing the things you know you should be doing? And why is it such a battle, so to say, to become disciplined? Why does the word discipline even exist? Shouldn't it be something that's just innate in humans to do exactly the best thing for yourself? Well, no, that isn't the truth. We are a pretty self-sabotaging species from time to time. There's two voices I think of when it comes to discipline that I've kind of quantified, and there's voice one, which is the voice of truth. Voice one, the voice of truth, this voice has all the answers. It knows what's correct. It knows what's wrong. It's a voice that you oftentimes will hear like when you're at the gym or when you leave the gym and you feel good. The voice of truth is like, let's keep this roll going. Let's go home. Let's have a nice meal. Let's get in bed early. And this voice will carry you on. When this voice is actively playing in your head, the process is much easier. But on the flip side, there's a voice that I call the scam artist. Now, this voice is significantly more convincing than the first one. And that is extremely unfortunate for us because this is the one when you know, maybe the day is going a little bad, or you wake up, you feel a little sick, you feel a little tired. When there's that plate of cookies in front of you, this voice is the one that is constantly battling in your brain. This is the one that's telling you, all right, you know, if you just have one cookie, it's not going to kill you. Maybe we don't go to the gym today. We're super sore. Maybe we don't read. Maybe we're not there for our loved ones. This voice is extremely convincing. That's why I call it the scam artist. So now, what do I mean by false sense of discipline? The scam artist is very good at creating this false sense of discipline. And what do I mean by that? So you have the voice of truth, right? Let's kind of quantify this. Let's give an example here. Say, you know what? When I get home from work today, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes, right? I had a really long day, but I'm going to get a little bit of movement in. I'm going to walk for 30 minutes. Now that's the voice of truth. And you get home and you getting your shoes on, ready, all that, and you step outside and you're like, all right, I'm going to walk around the block, right? And you walk around the block, you get home, it's been 22 minutes and 30 seconds of walking. Now the scam artist will tell you, all right, you know, we walked around the block, you said you're going to walk around the block, that's good, let's go inside, you achieved what you needed to achieve. But voice number one, the voice of truth, was I told myself I was going to walk for 30 minutes. I didn't say I was going to walk around the block, I said I was going to walk for 30 minutes, right? But it's almost like you don't even realize it because the scam artist is that good. Voice number two is that good. So you think you're like, wow, I achieved it. I'm so disciplined. So say that compounds through the week. So say you wanted to walk. I wanted to walk 30 minutes 4 times a week. So I want to walk for 2 hours a week. So say the scam artist prevailed and you just walked for 20 minutes. You walked around the block and say it was 20 minutes. Right? By the end of the week, you're like, wow, I did 4 walks this week around the block. I'm accomplished. I'm disciplined. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. But it's not. You said you were going to walk 30 minutes a day for 4 days, right? And you were going to walk a total of 2 hours this week. Well, instead you walked around the block and that took 20 minutes. By the end of the week, instead of walking 2 hours, you actually only walked an hour and 20 minutes, right? So that's kind of what I mean by a false sense of discipline. You tell yourself you're going to do something, you need to follow that to the T, right? And now there's obviously things that come up in life and situations where you have to kind of stray away from the path and kind of adapt. but you need to be hyper aware of the scam artist because it is so good that you will do it without even noticing. I'm not saying this to scare people off their journey or discourage people of their journey of becoming more disciplined. I'm kind of bringing it up just to bring awareness to it because I feel like a lot of people, after months and months of being quote unquote disciplined, they don't see any progress and they become very discouraged. And to me, the game of discipline and becoming more disciplined is a game of inches, right? And you got to be very careful on how things can compound. For that example with the walking, how that compounds is you lose 40 minutes of walking a week, right? So you said, I'm going to walk. I'm going to pick 4 days this week and I'm going to walk a half an hour. But instead you walked 20 minutes, right? Now at the end of the week, that's only an hour and 20 minutes. You lost 40 extra minutes, right? And that goes for all facets of discipline. If you told yourself at the beginning of the week, I'm going to read 70 pages this week, right? I'm going to read 10 pages a day. I'm going to read 70 pages. And 2 out of those 7 days you said, I'm going to read 20 tomorrow because I can't read 10 today. I'm just going to read 20 tomorrow. I don't feel like reading today. And tomorrow comes and you didn't. You only read 10 and you honestly forgot that you even said you were going to read 20. And at the end of the week, you're like, wow, I read 50 pages this week. That's great. And it's like, but you told yourself. The whole point of discipline is doing what you're telling yourself you're going to do. So you just need to be hyper diligent on that and make sure you're not cutting any corners. But like I said previously, there's room for adaptation. You need to adapt from time to time. You can't follow always the strictest plan because things do pop up. That's just human nature. That's life, you know. Things do pop up and you gotta kind of switch lanes and adapt and figure out what works best at that time being. But if you set goals for yourself, you need to achieve them to the best of your capability. You cannot cut corners, and you cannot allow voice number 2, the scam artist, to allow you to cut corners without even realizing. That's just, kind of something I thought of over my journey of trying to become as disciplined as possible. Because when I started writing, an example that I faltered was I've been writing my workouts in notebooks for years now, right? And when I first started, and sometimes I even do it today, I'll write X amount of sets, reps, and movements and whatever, and I'll be at the gym and I'll be working out, and the scam artist will kind of convince myself sometimes at the end of workouts, it's like, man, maybe you put too much volume into this workout, just skip a set or two, and, by the end of the week, that could be 5, 6, 7 sets that you skipped. And it's what I've done now moving forward is if I think personally I did too much volume in this workout, I wrote down too much volume, I finish it. I finished the whole workout. And the beautiful thing about writing in a notebook is I can look back the next time I hit that muscle group, right? And so what I'll do is I'll look back and I'll put a note in the bottom of the notebook. Too much volume, maybe take a set or two off, and maybe take a set or two off next time you hit it, right? So next time I hit it, I take a set or two off, and that's how I gauge my workouts and try to get the most effective and optimal workout. So next time I hit the muscle group, I'm technically hitting less sets anyways. So you would ask yourself, well, why wouldn't you just skip the sets when you realize that it might be too much in the current moment? And I think the damage doing that is worse than the damage of just maybe having too much volume, because it's I would rather a little bit more damage to the muscle than damage to my discipline, right? Because I wrote in this workout, this is exactly what I'm doing in today's workout. And I'll be damned if I don't finish it. So I'd rather keep up on my discipline and maybe just push a couple sets too far and go too far in the gym and next week recalculate it, than in the current moment going, you know what, that's too much, and getting rid of some shit. That is kind of something that I've thought about for a couple months now, was a false sense of discipline, and I hope that helps somebody. This isn't just something that has to pertain to lifting, reading, exercise, and eating well, or whatever it may be, right? This could be applied to any facet of discipline that you're trying to become better at, whether it's just overall life discipline, whether you're trying to become more disciplined in reading or chess or biking or hiking or running or whatever it may be, right? Um, I think people need to be hyper diligent and keep their eyes wide open and their brain engaged and look for any little bit of indication that there's a false sense of discipline happening. Well, that is my little rant for the day. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.